but sometimes the truth hurts.
Well, folks, we have some Canadian election drama between Conservative Ontario Premier Doug Ford and Conservative Party leader Pierre Poilievre.
There is the drama.
So in this video, I'm going to break down Ford's recent comments, which were caught on camera, as well as some clips from Pierre Poilievre as to why maybe Ford and many people are not really a fan of Pierre Poilievre. And I'll also get to the nugget of information that came in response to Doug Ford, which may give us an indication as to what is motivating some of these comments from Ford. But before I get there, I want to remind you to hit like and subscribe on this video. I basically never tell people to do that. I feel like over the past 10 years, maybe I should have. I could be at 1 million subs by now. But in case you haven't subscribed already, hit subscribe. It's free. Also, hit like. It helps in the algorithm. And if you look below, there's merch for sale, mugs, t-shirts, hats, all kinds of stuff. And this t-shirt, I gotta say, is very comfortable. Not like some of those t-shirts you buy that are, rough. I think it's a thread count thing. I don't know. All I know is that it's comfortable. So go support the show if you can. Let's get to these comments now. So my last video, I covered the comments from Kory, who is Doug Ford's campaign manager and a top conservative strategist, who basically unloaded on the Pierre Poilievre campaign. So let me just play for you a clip of that as it relates to the question that Doug Ford gets about Pierre Poilievre.
This campaign is going to be studied for decades as the biggest disaster in terms of having lost a massive lead in ways that are so obvious with so much information that says you're fucking it up.
All right, so that was just a taste of what was about maybe 6-7 minutes of video of Kory just ripping apart the Pierre Poilievre campaign. So again, go watch my video on that if you want the full breakdown. But this gets to Doug Ford, who up to this point has been very quiet about this election, despite the fact that he is a conservative and there is a conservative running in this federal election. But not much has come out except for this story from Toronto Star. Insiders say Pierre Poilievre called Doug Ford for advice, but the premier said he'll be staying out of the election. Interesting decision he made there. Now, today, since Kory Teneycke is making all these headlines with his comments, he was asked about Kory's comments, and here is what Doug Ford had to say.
As for Kory, I've said right from day one, he's tough as nails, but he's the best campaign manager in the country. And to be very frank, if Kory was running that campaign, I don't think Mr. Poilievre would be in the position he's in right now. But it's still a lot of time left. We still have debates. At the end of the day, the people will decide which way they want this country to move forward. But sometimes the truth hurts.
Sometimes the truth hurts. So I'm going to get to the potential motivation behind Doug Ford's unwillingness to work with Pierre Poilievre, but also at the same time now be a little more willing to actually criticize the campaign, even though, to be clear here, he's still being gentle, but he's not backing down from what his own campaign manager said. He's not even staying out of it. He's actually going into it and endorsing what his campaign manager said, even though he doesn't want to be as direct about it. But this is more than I expected from Doug Ford in any capacity, let alone, in terms of criticizing the Pierre Poilievre campaign. So I'll get to some clips from Pierre Poilievre as to, maybe why this campaign is not really connecting. But I want to address something he said there, because he claims that if his campaign manager, if Kory Teneycke was managing the campaign, maybe they'd be in a different situation. I actually don't think this is true. And the reason for that is because Pierre Poilievre is Pierre Poilievre and not Doug Ford. So Doug Ford, for all of his many faults, many scandals, many of which I've covered on this channel, the fact that Ontario spends the least per capita on healthcare in itself is a massive scandal. Despite all of that, Doug Ford has a personality. Doug Ford can at least appear to be a person. Doug Ford is able to connect with people in a way, on a human level, that Pierre Poilievre up to this point has been unable to. These two candidates, even though they're both conservatives, are just night and day in terms of how they carry themselves. I don't think any campaign manager could really help Pierre Poilievre through that. Pierre Poilievre was benefiting before. The reason why conservatives had such a massive lead up till January was because the Liberals were in power for 9 years. And at some point, people get tired of the same person being in power. So when Trudeau stepped down to be replaced by Mark Carney, and then on top of that, you had all these threats from Donald Trump to Canada, that just moved everybody back who may have swung from liberal to conservative, moved them all back to the liberals, leaving the conservatives with whatever base they have, plus a few more people who may still be tired of the liberals generally and think that they need some real change in Pierre, or they'll get more change with Pierre Poilievre than they would with Mark Carney. But that's why Pierre Poilievre was succeeding, is because of the dislike of Trudeau, not because his brand was fantastic. In fact, if you even go back and look at polling on how people felt about Pierre Poilievre, it was mixed. He wasn't doing well in that polling, even when Trudeau was the prime minister and the liberal leader. So again, this goes back to the personalities of Pierre Poilievre and Doug Ford, and a lot less to do with the actual campaign that Pierre Poilievre is running. That said, Poilievre is not helping himself by running a terrible campaign. Let me play for you this clip here. This is put together by the Liberal Party, just to be honest about that. But they're doing a really good job at showcasing why Pierre Poilievre is so unpopular.
Sneaky Mark Carney's gonna try to pull a fast one on you. I will ban all of my ministers from any involvement in the World Economic Forum. Warrior culture, not a woke culture. There will be no central bank digital currency. Radical, loony left. Give him a big round of applause for the anti-woke general. Their radical, liberal ideology. This is the globalist ideology. The globalist agenda. The biological clock runs out in your mid-30s.
All right. Now, if you are a listener of the Manosphere, various podcasts and garbage they put out, this all seems normal to you. Oh, what's wrong with this? Yeah, the globalist agenda, the biological clocks are ticking. This is all normal to me. But if you're anybody else who isn't out of their mind, who hasn't been taken in by far-right rabbit holes, all of this sounds completely loony. Now, of course, let's be clear, this isn't the entire campaign. Pierre Poilievre also has discussed, how there's a high cost of housing and things are unaffordable, and all of that is true. He has correct criticisms of how horrible things are for working class people, but none of the solutions to actually deal with the problems. And if he has any solutions, they're Harper-era policies, which didn't work before, so why are they going to work now? So again, this campaign that is so entrenched in this far-right manosphere culture, repeating these garbage talking points that you could hear from Trump or, Andrew Tate, any of these clowns, you wonder why he's not connecting very well. And then let me play this clip too, because actually, let's play this on the window, because this is just hilarious.
Well, I noticed that Mr. Carney uses a lot of slogans. He has been sloganeering his entire leadership campaign while I've been laying out real concrete policy plans. Axe the tax, axe the tax, axe the tax. Build the homes, build the homes, build the homes. Stop the crime. Stop the crime. Stop the crime. Canada is broken. Everything is broken. Everything is broken in Canada. Bring it home. Bring it home. Bring it home. Your home. My home. Our home. Let's bring it home.
All these slogans. How Mark Carney and these slogans, and the dude has been just slogans this entire time. Yeah, you wonder why he's not all that popular. But I brought this up in the last video, but I have to bring it up again because I haven't done a proper video on this, and I likely never will. But it's so stupid. This is an entire car commercial. I'm just gonna mute it because it's mostly just music that I'm not sure is licensed or not. But it's like, I don't know what this is. This is Pierre Poilievre. This is his campaign video. Change is coming down the track, and it's coming fast. Signed to bring it to the finish line. And it's him, his wife, his kid, and he's driving a Corvette down a racetrack for a minute and a half. This is the entire video. There's a brief comment from his wife about, oh, maybe this is my future job. Maybe I can race cars. And that's it. There's no message. It's just, it's that audio, that music for a minute and a half, him racing a Corvette down a track. And then it ends, hopefully soon. Let's speed to the end here. Canada first for a change. After he drives an American race car down a track for a minute and a half. Like, I don't know what this campaign is doing. I don't know what the purpose of this is. Who does this speak to? It's so bizarre. Like, I don't think this doesn't hurt him necessarily, but it's just, why did you spend any campaign resources on this? People that gave you money to help your campaign, you wasted it on racing a Corvette down a racetrack? Like, if you gave any money to this campaign, you should be pissed at this ad alone. It's absurd. But then we got, the attempts at trying to undercut Carney. Poilievre digs at Carney's banker's haircut. They got like the same haircut. What? Okay. Or this one. Why won't Mark Carney answer the simple question? You paid your taxes in Canada. Did he? And they went to answer, and yes, he did pay his taxes. Or they went to ask him, and yes, he paid his taxes in Canada. They're just asking because he was also a citizen of the UK, and he just renounced his citizenship there, which I think it's so ridiculous to, like, we went through this with Andrew Scheer. He has an American passport. We went through this with I think it was Stéphane Dion. He had like a French passport. Like, it's just, who cares? You have these people, yeah, they're travelers. They've had different careers. They may have lived other places and have different passports. Who gives a crap? But whatever. Okay, he renounced his citizenship now. You happy? Like, when you lack a real coherent message in anything to actually deliver anybody, this is what you amount to. These random attacks, baseless attacks in most cases, that don't connect because people aren't connecting with you and your message to begin with. This gets to Doug Ford. So there is speculation as to why he has launched, I shouldn't even say launched these attacks, why he is just endorsing the attacks made by his campaign manager, which, let me just show them before I get to my thoughts on this, because I am of two minds on this. So this is from Mackenzie Gray. This is the national reporter with global, national and global news covering Parliament Hill. So he writes here, multiple Poilievre conservatives have told me they think that Doug Ford is gunning to try and become the federal conservative leader, and that's at the heart of the distrust in Ford from the Poilievre team. Don't think these comments from Ford will mend any fences. So this is their response to Ford. They think he is gunning to become the next conservative leader, which I think is probably true. That said, I don't know if that is really the genesis of these comments here, because it's not as if to be the next conservative leader, you have to hate on the current one. In fact, that usually isn't the case. So I find it odd that they are blaming the comments on that, which, again, may be true that he wants to become the next leader. But I think the real reason here is just that Pierre Poilievre is not popular. Like, if Pierre Poilievre was really popular, I think Doug Ford would be more open to working with him. It's also the fact that the federal party has, in the past, sort of slighted Doug Ford. So I'm sure he's not all that happy or isn't happy in that, relationship or lack thereof with them. But I think this really comes down to just a lack of popularity from Pierre Poilievre and his message not connecting. But I want to comment more on this leadership potential here, because it's worth noting that Pierre Poilievre won leadership on the first ballot with 68.15% in 2022. When you win a leadership bid on the first ballot, that means you are incredibly popular with the base. Pierre Poilievre is the conservative leader because he is popular with the conservative base. So, if Doug Ford were to become leader, it assumes a lot of things. It assumes that Pierre Poilievre would lose so badly in this election that the party would want to oust him and pick a new leader. It would assume that the conservative base that elected Poilievre would all of a sudden not want right-wing politics anymore, or at least right-wing rhetoric, the way that Poilievre is delivering it, and would prefer Doug Ford, which, again, we're assuming too much here, because that's not going to happen. So there would have to be a real fight between Ford and somebody else who I'm sure would come up, who would try to take the mantle of what Pierre Poilievre is doing, because, again, they know that's where the popularity, or that's why Pierre Poilievre is popular. So there would be a battle between Ford and that person, and then it assumes, okay, Ford wins out, and now finally he's the conservative leader, and he's able to run at a national level, and maybe at that point he would be able to win. Again, we're talking years down the line, but this it's just really bizarre for the campaign to think that is the reason why Doug Ford is endorsing the critical comments of Pierre Poilievre, and not simply because Pierre Poilievre is just unpopular. And why would Ford want to attach himself to that when Ford himself is popular in Ontario? He doesn't need to bring his popularity down by, campaigning with Poilievre. But I want to hear what you think. So do you think there is, motivation from these comments by Ford for a future as the Conservative Party leader? Or do you think he's just doing this because he doesn't really care for Pierre Poilievre, or at least the current makeup of the party?